your host, Sydney-based June Rumley. My guest today is Wadzpay Group Head for Market Development for Blockchain Payments, Melcom Copeland. Malcolm is speaking to us today from Dubai. He comes to us with a wealth of experience on all things blockchain and the new buzzword known as non-fungible tokens or NFTs. A bit about Malcolm. He has over 20 years of experience across B2B E-Marketplace, gaming, cryptocurrency, and fintech sectors. Wadzpay is a Singapore headquartered company, and in this chat, Malcolm aims to give us a lowdown on the whole NFT ecosystem as well as to tell us a bit about his role in his current company. Without further ado, let's invite Malcolm to the show. Hi, Malcolm. Thank you for joining us. How are you today?
Hey June, I'm doing well. Been recovering from a little bit of a cold the last couple of weeks, as you know. Been trying to connect with you, but yeah, I'm finally here, and thanks a lot for having me. Appreciate it.
Awesome. All right, let's dive right into the question. So tell us a bit about what WasPay does in a nutshell.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Wadzpay essentially is a B2B technology provider for blockchain payments, so blockchain-based payments. And what we do is basically build an infrastructure and an ecosystem that is agnostic and interoperable. And what that means is we're going to market, without having to depend on any one singular platform to do integrations and be able to facilitate these alternative payment methods, cryptocurrency, digital currency, CBDC payments. So, we essentially are able to integrate with different blockchain networks, different acquirers, issuers in the traditional sense. So the traditional payment world. What we do is we fall in place where we have the platforms to allow traditional finance and those platforms and systems and rails to start transacting in digital currency world. And so we're like kind of like that bridge between digital payments and traditional payments, allowing this activity to happen.
Okay, so you are a software company, is that right?
Yes, we are a software company, and we develop a software stack that allow us to work with partners to allow digital payments.
Awesome. So a bit about your role. So when did you start, and what basically, because it says that you're a head of blockchain payments. So what do you actually do in this role?
Yeah. So I mean, I joined Wadzpay back in November last year. And I mean, since we're a startup company, right, my role is evolving, and it does change day to day in some sense, at least psychologically for myself. But it's just because I'm interacting with so many different folks across the board within our organization as well as externally. But I mean, my remit and responsibilities do lie on reporting to the founder and CEO, and Anish Jain. And we discuss mostly about strategic technology that we want to implement within our own in-house platform, as well as potential strategic partnerships and alliances with third-party platforms that we want to work with that think will bring value to the table for us. So apart from that, from a strategic level, I'm also working closely with our in-house development team in terms of product. So I provide a lot of product input for the solutions that we're developing. Since I have a lot of experience in the point of sale area, we're developing payment platforms for retail. So merchants and acquirers that work in those ecosystems can transact in digital currencies, as well as online e-commerce. I'm also providing feedback to the product teams about how use cases and user journeys for customers should take place in those kind of environments, and allowing them to transact also in digital currencies. So it's a bit of strategic and a bit of product at the moment, and a bit of partnerships. So I do reach out and collaborate with other tier one and tier two networks and organizations, and with regards to partnerships as well.
Awesome. So, okay, I actually did a deep dive on your social media profile, and one of it is I checked out your LinkedIn profile. So it has a photo of you in an NFT format. So it's non-fungible token. So let's start. So this whole
All
conversation is
right.
about NFTs, right? So just out of curiosity, have you sold any NFTs before? And if so, how much have you made?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, this is a good question. Yeah, first of all, for my LinkedIn profile, I'm flattered that you think it's an NFT. It's actually not an NFT, but now you've given
It's
me the
not.
idea that I think I'm going to create an NFT for my profile pic. That profile pic is actually an avatar, and that
Uh-huh.
avatar, yeah. So that avatar was created by a good friend of mine in Montreal, Canada, called Williamson Ducci. And he's a very talented artist, and he's created a lot of these kind of avatars for various members in his community. And what's interesting with Williamson is he's created an NFT comic book out of Montreal, Canada, and has built a huge community around it. And they've gone to market and are doing incredible things. So imagine a comic book, a digital version of a comic book that's an NFT and has embedded NFTs within it. So people are collecting, the artwork from him and his community, and I think it's fantastic. So shout out to Williamson. To your question, yes, in fact, I have myself over 51 NFTs that I minted, or excuse me, 50 NFTs I minted, and one I purchased on OpenSea. And
Uh-huh.
out of the 50 NFTs, I have up for sale since maybe 11 months ago. No, maybe a little bit less. None of them have sold. So it's very interesting. Yeah, so it's very interesting, and I scratch my head thinking like, okay, why haven't I sold any of this artwork? And in fact, the artwork that I minted out of the 50 NFTs were a collaboration with three other artists that I worked with: a musician who embedded audio in the NFT, a graphic artist I known from childhood who created filters for Photoshop. So we created the filters for the NFT. And then a painter who I've known since the 90s, who I purchased a painting in 1993. And so we took that painting and modified it and took this physical asset, my painting, which I collected, which is really old, I think is valuable, and created a digital version of it and put it on OpenSea, right? And we created 50 variants of that one particular painting. So it looks
Oh.
different, yeah. And it was great because, in fact, a little bit about that is it's a mural, or excuse me, a portrait painting of Tupac Shakur. So I grew up in the 80s listening to hip hop and rap music. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
Tupac's birthday was last year. He turned 50, and so that's why I created 50 renditions or variants of the NFT of the painting that I own. So what I wanted to do is prove, well, I wanted to learn what NFTs are. That's why I went through the
Hmm.
exercise. Secondly,
Yeah.
I know that through blockchain technology and NFTs, original artists could potentially earn royalties from
Mm-hmm.
secondary market for secondary sales every time the painting or the digital asset is sold. That original artist can reap benefits for recurring revenue. So I told my best friend, one of my friends, "Hey, look, I got your painting 1993. I'm going to create an NFT." And he was like, "Oh, what is that?" I was like, "Don't worry. If it sells, you're going to make some money off a painting you made, in 1993." And so all three gentlemen I worked with didn't know anything about NFTs. And so
Mm-hmm.
we were all able to educate ourselves and find out exactly how it works. So it was a great exercise. So yeah, I've got the NFTs out there. I've never sold them.
Okay,
So
how long has it been since you put it out there? Do you remember?
actually, it was, yeah, absolutely. It was June
Last year.
2021. Yeah, last year.
Awesome.
Because Tupac's birthday, it was a commemoration and a homage to Tupac Shakur, and I put it out there. It was a great experience, but I was of course thinking like as a creator, thinking like, okay, I'm going to put it up for 5 Ethereum, representing the 5 and the 50 of his age.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't sell. It didn't sell. So I was like, okay. A few months later, I put it to just 1 Ethereum, and it still hasn't sold. So people have the similar experience as myself, and you probably start questioning, oh, is the artwork good enough, that sort of thing. But it probably has nothing to do with the artwork itself. I think there's a lot of other tangibles and variables that you're probably going to ask me about later on why they don't sell and hard to monetize, right? So, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So, in plain English, can you explain what an NFT is and how one can monetize from it? Like, basically, some people make millions, and CNBC
Yeah.
writes about it. But, like, people like you and me, I have NFTs too, and it hasn't even minted. It hasn't even sold.
Right, right. So I think with that, in regards to plain English, from that standpoint, yeah, I think any digital asset that can be put on the blockchain that is unique and irreplaceable. That's basically what an NFT is, because you could put digital assets on there, but you have to distinguish whether they're non-fungible or fungible tokens. And so that's what I usually do when I explain NFTs. I usually tell people, look, you've got these tokens or cryptocurrencies out there that are interchangeable, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, even real world assets like the US dollar. You can basically interchange those one for one for each other. So they're not really unique, right? But when it comes to scarcity, rarity, and uniqueness, any physical asset can even become a digital asset and become an NFT. And ownership is proven through the blockchain. And these typical NFTs are irreplaceable, right? And they're very unique. That's why you see some folks get really lucky in terms of minting an NFT. It's an original piece, and then eyes of the beholder, all of a sudden you can see that folks see value and will start bidding potentially in an auction format and drive the prices up. But there's other areas in terms of market demand and what causes prices of NFTs go, in terms of even market manipulation. Maybe setting the wrong price, June. Maybe I set the wrong price, floor price for my NFT, and it's not interesting for people. So I think for NFTs and trying to explain that and what it is, it's really simple. And folks shouldn't get too turned off or think it's too technical in terms of the jargon, right? It's basically irreplaceable, unique, and that's what an NFT is. And it could be a physical asset too, right? So it could be music, artwork tends to get most of the news today, but it can be anything. It could be documentation. It could be your diploma, right? It could be it could be a driver's license. It could be any kind of document, and can actually be minted and become an NFT, right? What it is, it's the underlying technology, the blockchain, that makes that happen. So.
Okay, so you touched a bit on why people don't make money. Do you think it's a bit about luck?
I do think it's a bit about luck, because I think just trying to figure it out, and even my own personal experience, why my NFTs didn't sell. I think there's a lot of different variables that we can get into to describe and try to explain it, but I don't think there's any one answer. I think in terms of monetization and why some artists or creators don't monetize their artwork in the NFTs is the fact that maybe they're just not popular. Maybe the fact that I don't think that's a one and all, right? Because there's unpopular artists and creators who made a lot of money, right? And
Yeah.
so it's not the right. There's no right or wrong there. But how about the fact that maybe some creators haven't put the time and effort in to build communities around their work? So, and joining communities like in Discord or Telegram or these social media aspects of what really helps creators and artists sell their artwork. So I think NFTs are driven by social media, right? And a lot of this has to come down to the influencers of the world in this space, right? I think another reason, if we're going to get deeper into it, is the fact that maybe some of these marketplaces aren't suitable for the particular artwork or NFTs that are posted on these marketplaces. And frankly, if, let's say, take for example, you go to OpenSea or any number of other NFT marketplaces, for me, they're overwhelming and very oversaturated with so many artists. It's unlimited.
Yeah.
Anybody can go on there and create an account simply, and then connect their wallet and mint an NFT. So imagine the millions of people are doing that, seeking economic benefit from artwork for the first time, being able to sell something directly to a consumer without any middleman. So it's very attractive. So maybe there's just so many. If I go on to, as a consumer, I want to buy some NFTs, where do I start? I log into, check out, and start browsing OpenSea or Wearable or these others, and there's just so many artists on there, so much artwork to go through. So it's quite overwhelming, I think, and that might play a role why artists don't sell as well, because there's just so much competition, right?
Awesome. That's a great answer. So I actually have 3 NFTs on OpenSea and it hasn't made a dime. So the thing why I did that was because
Okay.
I wanted to start to understand what NFT is. So I got into it as a way to be able to write better, report better on it. So
Uh-huh.
I found that OpenSea is this, you don't have a number, and it's very hard to chat with them if you're if you get into a jam, like if you get into a problem. It's a bit like, I was talking to you before. There was this share market platform. It's called Robinhood. A lot of people during the pandemic, they dumped in money there, and the share market spiked. I mean,
Mhm.
and then after that, they couldn't get their money out, and there was no way to contact anybody from Robinhood because they don't have phone numbers. They don't even have an address there. Well,
Right.
people will just, the same thing with OpenSea. So I've actually had an issue with them, and I've sent them an email in January, and I only got a reply last week, which is close to a month.
Wow.
And yeah, so
Right.
it's a very dodgy space. So what my question is coming up to is like, how, when it comes to regulation, right, how well are NFTs regulated by the authorities? Also, who do you think the authorities are? Because
Yeah, that's
OpenSea, where are they based? Like, who are they? How?
right. Yeah, so I think you brought up something really incredible and interesting. Let's talk about these startup companies in the blockchain and cryptocurrency, digital asset, NFT space. As you know, a lot of these companies are startups. A lot of these companies are actually founded by maybe not so experienced commercially and business in a business sense, um, folks who don't understand operations probably fully, and they're still growing and still learning. And it comes down to customer service, right? So we can go to a 7-Eleven or some online Amazon, and these companies are very established and stable, where they have contact details that you can get a hold of folks who are dedicated to service the customer. And I think some of these startups just don't have that organizational, impact to the customer in terms of customer-facing support and service yet. So they probably are so innovative and fast-moving that, they forget sometimes the heart and soul of a company's operations and providing that customer service. So, and another thing is, you're right. Maybe there are some particular outfits out there who don't want to have that information exposed. So it makes it hard for you to contact them because they don't want to deal with the negative things, and they just want to keep moving forward, trying to develop the innovation. And perhaps even to the other extent, they can be even scams, right?
Yeah.
So for me, my answer to that and that question regarding regulatory, NFTs is not a market that is currently regulated. Okay,
Okay.
but having said that, I have heard and read discussions regarding NFTs potentially becoming regulated in the same way in some jurisdictions regulate cryptocurrencies. And let's say from a US perspective, that would be the authorities there would be like FinCEN, okay, as well as the SEC, right, who already have their hands in that space with regards to tokens and cryptocurrency and blockchain projects issuing, digital currencies. So that movement there can actually, you know, what can be borrowed from those experience can be definitely brought into the NFT space and treated the same way with whatever tweaks they need to make. Let's say in Singapore, where my company is actually based, we have the MAS, right? So Monetary Authority of Singapore, which probably is also eyeing very closely. I mean, in respect to consumer rights, right, and making sure that the consumers are protected, and that's what's happening. So I'm for that, personally. And I think there's going to be some regulation down the line regarding this. I mean, we read every day these rug pulls, the NFTs, scams, fraud, even security. You see OpenSea was recently
Yeah.
is vulnerable, right? So even
Yeah.
uh, these different platforms that have huge brands who are first to market runners, they get hacked or compromised. So I think regulation, security, and protection of the consumer is very, very important. So yeah.
So this regulation, right, will it be country by country, like, or is it going to be like one body that is, based in like America or somewhere?
Yeah.
How do you think this
I
goes?
I think like many things, it'll probably start in America and then influence the rest of the world. But even
Mm-hmm.
but even in America, you've got those 50 plus states, and it's going to be state to state. So I don't think there'll be one governing body per se, but I think there could be multiple, institutions or associations and foundations that could start more of the self-regulation to start, and then just like in gaming, and then later on, probably we'll start seeing more of the federal and state from the U.S. perspective, governing this, and then setting out frameworks around the world. When people start studying what particular jurisdictions are doing, they would implement those frameworks as well. So yeah, I think that's going to be coming, but I don't think it'll be one single regulatory body whatsoever. I think it'll vary.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So is NFT an American thing? Because I know Snoop Dogg buys a lot of
Oh
NFTs.
yeah, yeah. I think probably his associates and those around him who are up to par with what's going on in this in this trend. Basically tune them into what NFTs are. But all these celebrities are getting into NFTs,
Yeah.
and so again, that's going to be for me one method of driving adoption to the masses. Right, all of a sudden, you have Snoop Dogg creating metaverse ecosystems and creating NFTs, and of course, that whole genre is going to impact so many, generations of lives to be at least curious about what is an NFT, what is
Yeah.
cryptocurrency, what is a digital wallet, how do I get in this space, how do I get Ethereum to buy the NFT? This kind of thing is going to happen, and for the likes of these celebrities and personalities and characters, they actually help drive it. So I see that happening, going forward.
But is it American? Did it started from America,
Mm.
NFT? No idea, right?
It's a global phenomenon for sure. Yeah, let's
Alrighty.
not get. I'm an American, but let's not give America full credit for everything. Having said that,
Also,
I've been out of the States for 22 years, June. So yeah.
no worries. So, what are the most trusted platform one can showcase their NFT? So, we've talked about OpenSea. What about the others, the
Yeah.
second and third?
Yeah, June, when the word that I would, take out of that question is trusted. And that's, how do you define that, right? What is trusted? That's how it comes across to me. Does that mean like the brand, or does it mean the security of the platform? Can I trust my money on that platform? That's how I look at it, right? And, in terms of, let's say, brand and first to market, NFT marketplaces. OpenSea, you've got Nifty Gateway by the folks in New York, and the Gemini twins. You've got Rarible. But you know what? Who's emerging now to start offering NFTs are the centralized exchanges like Binance
Mm-hmm.
NFT offer. I mean, they have huge community, right, of traders. So Binance, so the crypto exchanges. Coinbase is coming out with one in the US soon. I think they just have the waiting list at the moment for NFTs. One brand that's very popular at the moment, and they've been really driving adoption over the last few years, is crypto.com.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
when I think of crypto.com, I think about a digital wallet, crypto wallet, where I can easily buy and sell cryptocurrency. They've come out with an NFT marketplace. So I think that's a great strategy for them, because they've, have a pretty huge percentage of the market. So they're introducing, this NFT trend to their existing community. And if they, for that particular organization, if they stick to the guns and keep it easy, then I think they have a good thing going on with that community. But then again, these platforms that they're launching and deploying should be very secure and protect the customers. And we know that even crypto.com has been hacked in the most recent days. So when you say trusted, I don't know how to really define that. I trust the brand, but do I trust my money on those platforms? It's hit or miss, and you have to be careful. Yeah.
Okay, so we spoke about the future of NFT. So basically, for the next 12 months, do you think the regulation is going to come fast and hard, or is it still going to be like, uh, a very
Yeah,
cautious thing we must do?
I think in terms of regulation, it's going to take some time, because if you just look at even like cryptocurrency, right? I think people are still at the stage of trying to figure things out and not to get
Mm,
too big brother about the situation. But absolutely, I think if we're going to start seeing more of the fraud, more of the crime, more of these rug pulls, I think it will accelerate the regulation, because the people will start crying, screaming, and I think there will be pressure against these different governments and jurisdictions to start looking at it a lot more seriously. But I think they still even have today their hands full with just crypto in general. So, but the natural progression will go to NFT next, because it's also a cryptocurrency. It's also a digital asset. So absolutely. And I think, yeah, I mean, that's what I think. And then I don't think it'll happen in the next 12 months, but I think it will move forward towards that for sure.
So it's not a fluff thing. NFT is not a, one hit wonder, like,
No, I think for me, in terms of the future of NFTs and what the future looks like, I think the market is still nascent and it's still emerging. It's still in the beginning of stages of adoption, and people are still actually building use cases, right, for the NFTs. Once they figure out what it is, they're going to see how they're going to implement it, integrate it in their own systems and platforms. I mean, it's just like blockchain and cryptocurrency and alternative payment methods driven by blockchain. People still don't get it. People are still trying to understand it and whether or not it does bring benefit to everyday lives. So it's going to be a process for sure. But definitely NFT market is still in the infancy, and it's not going anywhere, put it that way. I think once platforms become a little bit more frictionless, a little bit more seamless, and a little bit more easier for everyday users and the masses to actually interact with, because you know yourself, it's not easy to create a NFT or to mint, right?
No.
But and I think that's the missing piece today in terms of onboarding and the adoption of the consumers to get more into the space and understand if they can easily get their hands dirty, right, and get their hands-on experience, and it's an easy process for them, just like opening the bank app or making a payment over the counter using their digital wallet. Those are really easy things where they just have to click a couple buttons and that's it, done deal. But with actual technology today, it makes it quite prohibitive, I think, in my opinion, for the masses to adopt. But once folks start looking and spending time developing the technology for easy on-ramping, easy onboarding of mass consumers, I think the market's going to explode.
Awesome. Okay, so it seems like Dubai is the hotspot for all things NFT at the moment. So I just wondered, is that why you're in Dubai? Is that
well,
that
actually, no.
why?
I'll just no. I mean, real quick spill on that, and I'm actually based in Singapore, but because of Wadzpay activity here in the Middle East and GCC region, we're having huge projects at the moment at every level that you can think of, from government discussing CBDCs with us, as well as the biggest acquirers and payment processors here in the region wanting to discuss alternative payment and digital currency payments with us. And even digital banks and traditional banks looking to get into the blockchain space and explore digital assets. So it's, I'm here because of work, and there's a lot of work to be done. That's why. So I'm helping my colleagues here on the ground to face these customers and educate, as well as propose solutions, blockchain-based solutions that Wadzpay has. But having said that, yeah, I think Dubai is booming right now in terms of people from all over the world here are coming here to migrate. A lot of startup companies, innovative fintech companies, creators, artists that are driving the popularity of NFTs here. And market research I've done recently has said that people in the UAE own double the amount of NFTs compared to the rest of the world. And I try to figure out why, and I try to figure out why. Okay, why? And I'm thinking, okay, why do people buy NFTs in the first place? Or okay, let's say why people here in Dubai. For me, I think it might have to do with, I have to be wrong, right? Maybe prestige. Maybe the fact that there's a lot of liquidity here with people who are well off and have nothing better to do but say, look, I bought this, $1 million NFT. And then their friends say, oh, well, I want to get into that too. Let me buy a $2 million NFT. So I think it can be a little bit of that in terms of just that prestigiousness that it brings. Because look, people are driving Ferrari and these really expensive cars. It's kind of that same principle, I think, right? You don't need it, but since I can do it, I'll buy it. But I think also maybe in terms of overall GCC, UAE openness to innovation, that people will get into it a little bit more easier and be able to go ahead and get involved in this space, right? So I think it's not restrictive; it's an unrestricted environment in terms of innovation, blockchain, digital currencies, and the governments here are regulating. And if they're not regulating, they're studying frameworks to implement and put in place. But they're not saying, "Oh no, NFTs are a bad thing." No, they say, "Come on, come over here, but do your research and stay compliant, right? Within regards to, let's say, anti-money laundering and knowing your customer, knowing your businesses, and you know basically NFTs will grow in this kind of environment, right? So I think Dubai is a hot spot. I can go right outside the building where I work, and there's a huge, I don't know, 100-foot mural of an NFT with a QR code that popular painter, an artist has painted on one of the buildings here at the DIFC Innovation Hub. So yeah, you're right. There's a lot of movement here. I think there's a lot of community involvement and events that are going and taking place here as well. So you have a lot of events and conferences regarding NFTs, metaverse, and blockchain here in Dubai. So that contributes, tremendously to the NFT marketplace here and its growth.
Do you know anyone who's minted and made $1 million in Dubai with NFTs personally? Do you know anyone?
No, I haven't known anyone personally, but if I do run into that person, which can be likely, I'll try to ask for advice so you and I can both maybe see one of our NFTs on OpenSea sale, right? But yeah, again, when it comes down to that question of why some are able to monetize and others aren't, again, like I mentioned earlier, there's so many things. If I was able to take a picture with Snoop Dogg, and I told the world that he bought my NFT, game over, right? So I think it has to do a lot with that kind of thing. And also, to be honest with you, June, I think a lot of market manipulation also does exist in the area. So you have people even buying their own NFTs to drive up prices, and then others will see that activity, right? So I think at the end of the day, you just have to be careful.
Okay, so finally, one last question. So what do you have advice for someone who's on the fence to buy NFT? Because there's a lot of pressure when you read CNBC, when you go on Twitter, right? You can see some people minting like millions of dollars with one not really good looking I mean it's a questionable art piece, and you just wonder how did they make so much of money. So what's your advice for someone sitting on the fence to do it or not?
I think I try to do. I think for me, when it comes to the blockchain, digital asset, cryptocurrency space, it's always me saying, "Look, I get asked for advice all the time. I always just say, I use the acronym DYOR, right? So do your own research. Okay. Spend the time to protect yourself in terms of future decision making that you're going to be doing. In terms of, from a creator standpoint, how do I build a strategy about and give myself the chance to have my artwork or whatever NFT, whatever it is, sold in these open marketplaces, right? So yeah, definitely you can take the jump, but be prepared, right, in terms of expectations. Now, from the consumer buying side of it, again, I have to reiterate: really do your homework, do a lot of fact finding, get involved with the communities online and the social media to do the research on these communities that are even pumping out NFT collections, right? Like your apes, et cetera, et cetera. Find out who these people are. Find out who these people are if you can, if they have track records. See what the other community members are discussing and talking about, if there's any questions that you should be concerned about. And involve yourself and educate yourself as much as possible using Google, YouTube, and these channels to find out as much as possible about the people behind the NFTs themselves, if you think they could potentially have some kind of value in the future by holding them. But of course, you also have those speculative personalities and characters of that nature who just want to buy and sell, right? Yeah. So they're traders. They don't really care about the uniqueness. They don't care about if that artwork is questionable or beautiful or not. They want to buy They want to be driven by market supply and demand, and then sell it at a higher price. So buy low, sell high principle. So yeah, absolutely. Bottom line, I think just do your research. Probably don't spend money that you cannot afford to lose,
Okay.
because it's that saying in gambling or going to this casino. You want to do it for entertainment, do it for learning experiences, but probably don't crack your piggy bank or your bank account to acquire something that you don't really know about. So that's what I would say in terms of advice. Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. And all right, that's all the time that we have for today. We have
Okay.
just been speaking to Dubai-based Melcom Copeland on all things NFT. So thank you, Malcolm, for joining the show today.
June, I had a great time. Thank you so much for the invite. I really appreciate it. I hope we could do it again in the future.
Yes, the pleasure is all ours. Be sure to join us next time as we aim to interview another interesting individual from across the globe. Thank you.
Okay, June, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.